So for Comey to think that we, the American people, are so stupid as to think that he, as a former FBI director, former prosecutor, and someone who clearly pays attention to what's going on, would believe his lie that he didn't know what this actually was calling for. The dangerousness of this, Jesse, cannot be underestimated. When we have 2 assassination attempts on the president's life, when we have people who look to guys like Comey, who've been celebrated by MSNBC and the Democrat elite and CNN as the beacon of integrity, the law and order guy, the guy who would tell the truth no matter what the consequences. This is the guy who's issuing a hit on President Trump, the president that the American people voted for. So it's guys like Comey and others who call the president the modern day Nazi, people who are in great positions of influence, who are saying that President Trump poses an existential threat to our country. These are people who hate democracy and hate the American people because they cannot stand that the people overwhelmingly chose to elect Donald Trump and send him back to the White House. So they are seeking other means to get their way and to try to remove him from that position.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you all for joining me today. If you haven't already, please make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. Most importantly, please make sure that you are following me on Telegram at TD Media Group to help circumvent social media censorship and shadow banning. And with the introduction out of the way, let's get into today's news. And today we have to talk about former FBI Director James Comey. James Comey, if I'm not mistaken, was fired by Trump in 2017. We have to talk about him today, though, in 2025, because he took to Instagram with the purposes of going viral. And that he did. He definitely went viral, but he went viral for all the wrong reasons. And now there may be very, very serious consequences behind him going viral for posting this message here. I believe it was, once again, on Instagram. As you can see here, it's seashells in the sand, which read 8647. 47 obviously represents Donald Trump, 47th president of the United States, but 86, that number is where the problem lies, right? And that number could quite possibly land James Comey in jail, because depending on who you're talking to, depending on who's posting this message, because this is coded language here, so it does all depend on who you're talking to. 86 either means to get rid of, to remove, or to kill. Once again, it depends on who's posting the message, but that number 86 represents one of those 3 things: getting rid of, remove, or kill. After posting this message and going viral and receiving a whole lot of backlash, including a response from Kristi Noem and Patel, which I'm getting ready to read, which I will get ready to read to you guys very shortly, he then took the post down and stated this, and I quote, "I posted earlier a picture of some shells I saw today on a beach walk, which I assumed were a political message. I didn't realize some folks associated those numbers with violence. It never occurred to me, but I oppose violence of any kind, so I took the post down." Now, a lot of people are not giving Comey the benefit of the doubt because he is the former FBI director. This is a man whose life's work was taking down bad men who did bad things to people. He knows all about coded language, coded numbers. You know, he understands all of this. And in light of the fact that pre-election, Donald Trump survived 2 assassination attempts, come on, man. You have to have more self-awareness than this. How do you, what would make you think that this was a good idea to post that, not even knowing truly what it means? At least so you say. Now, most people aren't giving you the benefit of the doubt, but you're claiming, I figured it was a political message, but I didn't know that it meant violence. Come on, man. Like, once again, especially someone with as much power and influence as Comey has. And that's the other thing behind it, right? If this was just a regular post on Twitter by some random nobody, obviously nobody would care. But because it's coming from you, who's a former FBI director, who's very well learned and studied in coded language, What would make you think that this was a good idea to post this coming off of 2 failed assassination attempts? I mean, like I said, the lack of self-awareness with these people who don't like Trump is unbelievable. And the problem is that you see this so-called, and I'm going to now start to say alleged self-awareness or lack of self-awareness happening over and over and over again. And when you see this pattern of this alleged lack of self-awareness with those who don't like Trump consistently happening, at a certain point, you start to believe, okay, it's not, that you're self-aware. You lack self-awareness. You yourself are speaking in code of language. You yourself are dog whistling. That's what it leads people to believe because it's happening too much. And now he has people like Christino and Cash Patel on his back. Look at this here. Let's look at this first post here from Cash Patel, because he was one of the first people to respond to this after the new FBI director, Cash Patel. Here's what he stated. We are aware of the recent social media posts by former FBI Director James Comey directed at President Trump. We are in communication with the Secret Service and Director Curran. Primary jurisdiction is with the Secret Service on these matters, and we, the FBI, will provide all necessary support. Kristi Noem would go on to say, disgraced former FBI Director James Comey just called for the assassination of the President of the United States, Trump. DHS and Secret Service is investigating this threat and will respond appropriately. But most importantly, Donald Trump responded to this. And that's what I want to play next. Let's get into what President Trump had to say on this matter.
First, the former FBI Director James Comey accused of posting an online threat against the president, and the president giving his first reaction to Fox News. So that's where we begin today.
Exactly what that meant. A child knows what that meant. If you're the FBI director and you don't know what that meant assassination. And it says it loud and clear. Now, he wasn't very competent, but he was competent enough to know what that meant. And he did it for a reason, and he was hit so hard because people like me, and they like what's happening with our country. Our country's become respected again, and all this. And he's calling for the assassination of the president.
Obviously, he apologized and said he did.
Well, he apologized because he was hit. Look, he's a very bad.
What do you want to see happen?
He is a.
What do you want to see happen?
I don't want to take a position on it because that's going to be up to Pam and all of the great people. But I will say this: I think it's a terrible thing, and when you add his history to that, if he had a clean history, he doesn't. He's a dirty cop. He's a dirty cop, and if he had a clean history, I could understand if there was a leniency, but I'm going to let them make that decision.
Okay.
So now what I want to do next is I want to take a moment now to play what Tulsi Gabbard had to say. Because once again, this isn't being taken lightly at all. But Tulsi Gabbard is so far the first person that has openly come out and stated he needs to go to jail. He needs to be in prison behind this, and he needs to be held accountable for his actions. And I want to get into that next because she made a lot of good points. She made reference to a very interesting poll concerning the idea of removing or liquidating President Trump, right? I don't want to say the actual word and his name together. And once again, it's just a very interesting direction that it appears that we're headed into in this country concerning political violence, right? So let's get into this clip next from Tulsi Gabbard.
How serious is the administration taking this, and what are the next steps going to be?
We're taking this very seriously. As you mentioned, the Department of Homeland Security, and specifically Sean Curran, the current Secret Service director, a man who has been willing to lay down his life as the lead of President Trump's Secret Service detail for years now. He takes this seriously and is leading the investigation into this threat. There has to be accountability for this. There was a Rutgers study that just came out a little over a month ago, Jesse, that asked respondents their view on these calls to assassinate President Trump. And over 55% of respondents felt that murdering President Trump would be, quote unquote, somewhat justified. This is the effect of people like James Comey doing this kind of stuff. This study also pointed out that there is a quote unquote assassination culture that is starting to take over the views of what they call the extreme left. We, the American people, cannot take this lightly. Whatever your politics, we cannot allow people to get by without being held accountable for this kind of public call to assassinate the President of the United States.
I want to take a moment to pause there and let's just discuss that poll for a second, as well as what Tulsi said when she stated there is I believe she said assassination culture that seems to be taking over the left. You can't say that we haven't seen this coming, right? All of the dialogue pre-election from the left was that Donald Trump was Hitler and that those who supported him and voted for him, like myself, are Nazis. You cannot say that over and over and over again, repeatedly, alongside with this idea that he's going to be a dictator on day one. Do you remember that? I mean, it didn't happen, but you're saying this stuff over and over again. How many of you guys remember when, who was it again? I'm brain farting right now. Maxine Waters. When Maxine Waters was on MSNBC and the fear mongering was just on 10,000, when she stated that if Donald Trump loses, he has extremists that are training in the hills right now to descend down on communities of color and fire upon them if Donald Trump loses. At the same time, DNC lunatics were claiming that if Donald Trump wins, there's going to be a civil war. So no matter how things played out, whether he won, whether he lost, bodies were going to hit the ground, and it was going to be because of Trump. But since then, has there been political violence? Absolutely. Where has it all come from? Exclusively the left. It's exclusively has come from them. In between what appears to be a lot of dog whistling with using the language of violence as a metaphor, to which when you call them out on it, then they want to backtrack and pretend like you're, just looking into things too much. Like what we saw with Jasmine Crockett when she was talking about Senator Ted Cruz and saying that, you got to hit him hard and you got to go upside his head and you got to punch him. And it's just like, why? Why are you talking like that? You know what I mean? And you see this repeatedly. And then the results of this, in the midst of all of this type of talk, you incorporate Elon Musk into the fray. Now, all of a sudden, his Tesla dealerships are getting literally firebombed. They're literally getting shot up. People driving in Teslas are in fear because random DNC lunatics are coming up to their cars and kicking the door in, scratching the side of their car up, scratching, the swastikas on the side of their car. Clearly, what Tulsi Gabbard is speaking on as it pertains to the polling and the culture that's developing, the culture of extremism, we're seeing it come to fruition. And anybody that's saying otherwise, honestly, you're just being disingenuous at this point. You're being disingenuous. I get you don't like Trump, but come on, man. You can't be this stupid. You really can't be. Let's carry on with what Tulsi had to say.
Do you believe that Comey is goading you guys to come after him because he wants to be a political martyr? He wants to be set up so he can say, oh, look, we were right. Donald Trump is a dictator. They're coming after me. They're arresting me. They're interrogating me. I was just using my free speech.
Whatever his intent, I will tell you that there is a guy in Georgia who is issuing threats on my life about a month ago, and he's in jail today. He has been indicted with a crime, as he should have been, and he is in jail as we speak. So whatever James Comey intent, he and people like him need to be held to account according to the law, which is something that he claims to have given his life for and stands by the rule of law. Fantastic. The rule of law says people like him who issue direct threats against the President of the United States, essentially issuing a call to assassinate him, must be held accountable under the law.
Do you believe Comey should be in jail?
I do. Any other person with a position of influence that he has, people who take very seriously what a guy of his stature, his experience, and what the propaganda media has built him up to be, I'm very concerned for the president's life. We've already seen assassination attempts. I'm very concerned for his life. And James Comey, in my view, should be held accountable and put behind bars for this.
Well, Comey wanted to go viral, and he went viral. And now there's a possibility that he can find himself behind bars for going viral for all the wrong reasons. I said this at the top of the video, and I'll say it again in closing. You can't be this dumb. In the midst of everything that we've seen pre-election concerning political violence with 2 assassination attempts on Trump, and then post-election with the firebombing of all these dealerships and people literally shooting them up, you're seeing violence upon violence upon violence upon violence. You're seeing this endless array of violence that's carrying on, that is clearly and exclusively coming from leftist lunatics. And you could easily connect that to the rhetoric of DNC lunatics from folks on MSNBC and whatnot. In the midst of everything, you have to have self-awareness, man. You can't be that dumb to be making posts of an encrypted message, knowing it's political, but not really quite understanding what it means. But yet you're a former FBI director. And this is the kind of stuff that you've been dealing with or dealing within your entire career. Of course, nobody's giving you the benefit of the doubt. You look crazy right now. And as people like to say, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. And it looks like you might be winning a very stupid prize of jail time. But we'll see how this all plays out. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Do you think that he's going to be charged at all? If he's charged, do you think that he's going to actually go to jail? Let me know what you guys think. That does it for today's video. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please hit a like button on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. Share this video on your social media platforms. And do not forget to follow me on Telegram. It's extremely important that you do that. The link to my Telegram is in the description box below and pinned in the comment section as well. Thank you all for your time. Until the next video, peace and have a great afternoon.